When I was knocking on doors and I was making lots of telephone calls, I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the intelligence. I didn't have the smarts. I didn't have the confidence. But here's what I discovered. I'm sure about this in Until I Become. Whatever you lack in skill, you make it up in numbers.
How many times do people stay on the bench in life because they're afraid of the other people's perception of them? If someone has that and it's a gripping fear for many, what might be your piece of advice to that person who just is afraid of that? And it hurts them.
I've been the one that's been afraid. So what I do is write down 25. So you play a game, okay? So the key thing is so I do a 3 metric system. So here's what my promise is. So what I always do is I do a thing where I look at my promise is 25 conversations this week. So my promise is 25 conversations. My actual is, then here's what your actual number of conversations. And then my gap is. So my promise is 25 conversations. So let's just make this up for a moment. So my promise this week is to have 25 conversations about growing and expanding my business. Okay?
Okay.
25 conversations this week is, so somebody says to me, Darren, I don't have a job right now. Well, yes, you do. Your job is finding a job.
Okay.
Your job is finding a job. Okay. That's your job. Your job is finding a job. And so what do you commit to this week? Well, I commit to having 25 conversations to share with somebody about my skills to get a new job.
Okay.
So 25. Okay. Then tomorrow, what's your actual? My actual is, well, I had 3 conversations. Okay. So your gap is what? 22. So promise, actual, gap. My promise is, my gap is, or my actual is, my gap is. And so every day I keep track, because here's the thing. And this I talk about Until I Become. When I was knocking on doors and I was making lots of telephone calls, I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the intelligence. I didn't have the smarts. I didn't have the confidence. But here's what I discovered. I'll share about this in Until I Become. Whatever you lack in skill, you make it up in numbers. Whatever you lack in skill, you make it up in numbers. So I'll give you an example. When I was a young guy, I was very intimidated by girls. Okay. I was insecure. I was in special education. I wasn't a jock in school. I wasn't athletic. I was the kid who rode the short bus to school. So I didn't have anything going for me. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I grew up in a middle-income family. I didn't have high self-confidence. I didn't have a lot going for me other than a work ethic. Cutting grass, shoveling sidewalks. So what I would do is I'd go up and every day I'd put 10 Canadian pennies in my left pocket, privately, secretly. And every time I'd say hello, good morning, good afternoon, how are you, hello, to a girl, I would then transfer that penny secretly from my left pocket to my right pocket. And when I used to go to networking events, because I was always very uncomfortable in networking events, because when people are like, oh yeah, where'd you go to school? Well, I went to special ed. Oh yeah, good to meet you. I got to go to the restroom. It was kind of those things that people just blow me up, because I never had a university degree, college degree, or wasn't top of class or best of class. I was a D student in school. I barely passed public school, high school. So what I do is I go to networking events or trade shows or conferences or seminars. I used to put pennies in my left pocket. And my goal was I'm going to talk to 20 people. I'm going to have 20 conversations a day. And I would just secretly transfer a penny each time I had a conversation. And the goal at the end of the day was to have all the pennies in my right pocket. And that's what I would do.
Wow.
Same thing with business cards. For many years, like when I meet people at trade shows and conferences with business cards, if I wanted to follow up with you, it would go into my right pocket. Right pocket, right person to follow up with. If it went in my left pocket, I would discard it and recycle the business card and wouldn't talk to you again or see you again. And that's what I would do. And that's what I did.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love the business card strategy. I had something very similar back in the day. So I love everything you're sharing. It's just so practical. It's applicable. We can get started with it today. Amazing stuff. If we move forward even more, I'd love to ask, what are you excited about now? The big vision and the goals next for Sir Darren Jacklin?
Great question. So a few different things. One is E2E Elevate to Educate, which is a hiking fundraiser. So I hike for a cause. I love being in nature. I love being in the outdoors. And I really have deep, rich, authentic, inspiring conversation with people. You mentioned offline if I golf. And I find when people golf, they put on their mask, right? There's a lot of ego in golfing. And I find when people golf, you see their true, authentic, vulnerable self. So one of the things is when people go golf or people go out hiking with me and they're maybe out in the wilderness, people always ask, oh my gosh, is there wild animals out here? And I'll say, yeah, there is. People are like, oh my gosh, are we going to see a bear or a cougar or a lion or what are we going to see, right? And I'll say, listen, a mountain lion. And people say, what are we going to see? And I said, listen, the fear is real, but the threat is not. And I said, where else does that show up in your life? The fear is real. So right now you think there's a tremendous amount of fear of some wild animal coming out of the bush. So the fear is real, but there's no immediate danger or threat. There's no evidence right now in proximity to where we are that we see some wild animal going to threaten us or attack us.
Okay.
So the fear is real, but the threat is not. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Second thing is with E2E, Elevate to Educate, what I've done is I've released 43 pounds in weight from just hiking all the time. And I used to be the slowest person hiking. Now I just did Mount Kilimanjaro here just a few weeks ago in Tanzania, East Africa, one of the top mountains in the world at 19,340 feet. So what I do is we bring people out hiking with us. They go to hikingfundraiser.com and they can register there. We do hikes across North America, but here's the cool thing. We bring people out to hike from all walks of life, and they pay a small registration fee to come out hiking. They get a chance to network, collaborate, be in a great, inspiring, positive, energetic environment that enriches people's lives. But the fun thing about it is the money that we collect off sponsorship and off registration gets collected, goes to Link Foundation, which is my international foundation for global philanthropy. We've committed to building 100 schools over the next decades across Africa and $100 million. And they then get a chance through social media to see us build a new school called the Link Leadership Academy for some of the most impoverished children on the planet. So we've already built our first school from preschool to grade 6. Now we're building the high school from grade 7 to grade 12 in Liberia, West Africa, called Link Leadership Academy. We've got over 350 children, some of the most impoverished children on the planet today. It helps us to decrease human and child sex trafficking and organ harvesting, because these children, a lot of them are targets around the world for organ harvesting. We help to alleviate them from poverty. We help to bring in clean drinking water, education, because they're the next generation. And if we look at India and Africa, they're emerging marketplaces. Mm-hmm. So people come out and join E2E Elevate to Educate, hikingfundraiser.com. They hike for a cause and they build a school. So every time people get a chance to come out and hike, that money gets allocated towards building a school for some of the most impoverished children on the planet.